The Puma Future Pro has been one of the best takedown boots over the past few years. But is that still the case with the new Future 7 Pro that was just released? Well, in this video, I'm going to cover all the features of this new model and discuss the things that work well and the areas that can be improved on. And at the end of the video, if you're interested in picking up a pair of the new Puma Future Pros, check the link in the description where you can find them on sale with some exclusive discount codes. And if you haven't already entered, we're doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers for a brand new pair of Nike Premier 3s. All you've got to do to enter is be subscribed and fill out the form in the description. And with that out of the way, let's talk about the design of these boots. So the Future 7 Pro is going to pick up right where the previous model left off with a beautiful full knit upper. And that knitted upper is going to retain the same Fusion Fit 360 name that it had in previous generations. But one of the biggest differences that you're going to notice aesthetically when you see these boots for the first time is that the power tape that was originally in a zigzag pattern on the side of the boot has now been moved directly across the top of the boot. Now, in my opinion, I actually think that was a good move from Puma because when the power tape was on the side in previous generations, I just don't really think it had that much function added to the boots. There wasn't enough surface area on the power tape to give you noticeable traction on the ball, and it didn't really make that much of a difference in the lockdown either. However, the way that the power tape has now been added directly on top of the midfoot, you are getting a slight added benefit to the lockdown because other than that power tape, this is a really flexible, soft, knitted material that's across the midfoot. And what that power tape is going to do is just add a little bit of rigidity to that structure. And speaking of that stretchy knit material, you're going to have a full knitted collar that's very soft and extremely elasticated, which is a good thing and can be a bad thing. And that's what we're going to talk about more later in the video. You're also going to have a very minimal lacing system with the new Future 7 Pro, but that being said, it's absolutely necessary because without it, these boots would fit far too loose. Now, the texture of the upper itself is actually fairly similar to the previous generation, but it's going to be a little bit less sticky than last year's Future Pro, and it's going to have a slightly more matte finish to it. And then all the way from the heel area up through the toe box, the upper is going to have a really nice textured sensation, almost with these little bumps and ridges throughout. And then inside of the boot, you're going to have a pretty soft padded material just behind the heel to help cushion your foot and reduce the possibility of blisters. And then further through the midfoot and toe box, you're going to have a really soft inner liner. Moving on to the back of the boot, and of all of the features with the new Future 7 Pro, this is the thing that has remained the most constant, because it is pretty much identical to the dynamic motion outsole that we saw on last year's model. And that outsole is going to feature a combination of both bladed chevron studs and conical studs. And because of those slightly more aggressive bladed studs in the heel and at the top of the toe box, I would definitely recommend that these boots are worn on firm ground natural grass. And if you're looking for a version of these new Futures that are more suitable for use on artificial grass, I would recommend checking out Puma's MG sole plate, which stands for multi-ground. It actually has a lot more small conical studs that are a little bit shorter in length, and I find that that sole plate is much more appropriate for use on AG. And then the sole plate itself is actually going to have a pretty medium flex to it, so you can get a slight bend through the midfoot, so it's not going to be quite as snappy as something like the Puma Ultra Ultimate or other high-end speed boots like the Vapor 15 or the Superfly 9. Now, some people may actually like that because while the sole plate is going to be a little bit less snappy, it's going to provide you more of a sensation like the bottom of the boot is moving with your foot. So overall, when it comes to the design, it's not a complete overhaul of the Future series, it's really just a few tweaks here and there. So let's move on to the fit and feel of the new Future 7. So I have to be honest, the fit is pretty interesting with these boots, and I definitely think there are some pros and cons. And starting off with the pros, these boots are crazy comfortable. It's a very well executed knitted upper. It feels extremely soft on the inside. I think Puma did an amazing job, not just with the outside of this design, but the inner liner is just such a nice touch. And on top of that, they're also really easy to slip on and off just because of this stretchy, elasticated collar. Now, the width of this football boot is going to be pretty accommodating through the midfoot, and it's going to have a little bit more width in the toe box compared to its competition in the Phantom GX2. And just for reference, I still believe that the Puma Future is going to be the widest boot that Puma offers in their lineup. As far as the sizing on these, I went with my typical 10.5 US, and I can definitely say that these should fit true to size. I had just enough space at the front of these boots for my toes. And as I mentioned, that knitted collar is going to feel really soft around your ankle, but the heel area of this boot is where I had some issues regarding the fit and feel. And that's because despite being a pretty high cut football boot, I really didn't get quite as much lockdown as I would expect from this model. I got the sensation when I tried these on for the first time that the heel just wasn't that deep. And what I mean by that is when I first tried these on and was standing up and walking around, I got the sensation that I didn't have that much security in the heel area, and I would occasionally feel like my foot was slightly slipping out. Now, I think this could be partially due to the fact that the heel area in the Puma Future 7s, as well as the rest of the football boot, is not entirely structured. It feels really soft to the touch, and even the internal heel counters are actually pretty soft and malleable, and you can squeeze the heel area pretty easily. Now, in contrast to another full knit upper football boot like the Phantom GX2, you're definitely going to have a much more rigid heel area with more solid heel counters, and I think that's part of the reason why the lockdown in the Phantoms feels a little bit stronger. Now, as far as getting around that issue when I first tried on these boots, and if you plan to get the new Puma Futures, it's really not too difficult. You just need to make sure that this final lace hole around the ankle is tied really tight. So what I did is after I laced these up for the first time, I walked around, dribbled the ball a little bit, and then I just readjusted the laces, making them even tighter, and then I was able to avoid any sensation of my foot slipping out of the boot. It's almost like this boot's greatest strength created a small weakness because the entire upper, even around to the heel and ankle area, is just so soft that in some parts I think it's just lacking that structure that could help improve it. But make no mistake, these are still some extremely comfortable football boots. So now let's talk about what they were like to play in. Well, honestly, once I got the laces adjusted correctly and made sure they were tight enough, these boots picked up right where the previous Futures left off, and they were so much fun to play in. It's such a flexible and free-flowing knit upper that it almost gives you the sense that you're wearing a laceless football boot. The upper is really clean, continuous, it gives you a smooth striking surface throughout, and because that lacing system is so minimal, it doesn't get in the way at all. And because these boots have a slightly more matte finish to the upper compared to the previous generation, I like the fact that when dribbling, the ball didn't stick to your feet quite as much. And after over an hour of playing, I didn't notice any pressure points throughout the heel, midfoot, or toe box. And they definitely delivered on the sock-like feel that I expected and I really loved from the previous generation. If I were to rate it, I'd probably say that the playability and the fit and feel of these boots is around an 8 out of 10, and the only thing stopping it from being higher is that slight lack of lockdown in that heel area. Now let's talk about the value. As of the filming of this video, you can pick up the new Puma Future 7 Pro for $140 or less, making it more affordable than the first takedown of the Phantom GX2. And not just is this model affordable compared to other takedowns, it's important to note that Puma does do a pretty good job at making their first takedown model very similar to the premium version. Just to give you an example of that, this is the Nike Phantom GX2 Elite version, the best of the best that they have to offer, and in this model, you're gonna get this premium grip knit upper, but in the first takedown model of the Phantom GX2, you're not even gonna get the same material in the upper. You're not even gonna get grip knit at all. So while aesthetically the takedown of the Phantom GX2 will look pretty good and the comfort will be solid, you're not gonna get any of the same features that make this the high-end model. Whereas with the Future 7 Pro, this is pretty much the same upper that you're gonna get in the premium Ultimate model, with the major difference between the two boots being that the Ultimate version is just gonna have more bladed studs instead of the addition of conical studs. So value is generally an area where Puma tends to do really well, and the Future 7 Pro is no exception. It's one of the best bang for your buck takedown boots that's on the market. But let's talk about some of the main competitors for this model. So when I think of the main competition for the Future 7 Pro, the first boot that comes to mind is actually the Tiempo Legend 10 Pro. Now that's gonna be another takedown football boot from Nike that also retails for about $140. It's gonna have a comfortable fit with an elasticated collar that's not too different from what you're getting with the Future 7 Pro here, and it has the benefit of slightly more added lockdown throughout the ankle and heel area. Now aesthetically, the Tiempo Legend 10 and the Puma Future are pretty different looking football boots. So you might do best going with whichever one fits your style the most. And then obviously another main competitor to the new Puma Future 7 is going to be the Phantom GX2. Now I reviewed the GX2 just a few days ago, and if you're interested in that review, you can find it on my channel. And I have to say I was really impressed with this boot, but it also retails for $260. So if you're willing to spend that kind of money on a football boot, then the GX2 Elite is an amazing option, and I think it would just narrowly edge the Puma Future 7. But on the other hand, I would take the Future 7 Pro over the Pro version of the Phantom GX2 just because you're not really getting the same feature set with these takedowns. So essentially, if you're looking to get a great knitted upper football boot, but you want to spend less than $150, the Future 7 Pro is going to be a great choice. So what are my final thoughts? The Future 7 Pro is still a great takedown football boot that can easily rival some more expensive options. And while I think the lockdown can be improved, if you're someone who's interested in getting a soft, sock-like football boot, the Puma Future 7 is a great place to start. And that is going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've gotten a chance to try on these boots and what you think of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.